Hey, this is JP. I'm excited to be with you this morning. What I like to do today we are going to focus on the circles talk. The circles talk is the foundation to our financial planning process with our clients. And the objective is just to really hit home three key objectives is what we do for our clients. We protect, we accumulate, and we distribute. And by doing so, we're going to be able to create a legacy for them. And so as they go through these different stages of life, we can bring value. The second aspect to the circles talk, it positions you as a world-class financial advisor. And the reason I say that is because it encompasses so many different moving pieces, but yet we're able to illustrate this in a very simple way where we watered it down where people can digest it. And oftentimes it leaves people feeling with the sense of like, man, this is really going to help me. We've been using this process for many, many years. What I like to do today is really illustrate it, show you how it works by going through the script. In a later video, what we're going to do is we're going to focus on the anatomy of the circles talk and how protection really can impact a financial plan. We're going to focus on the 12 aspects of protection, and then we're going to migrate into accumulation and distribution over time. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. So this is basically how the script works. You always want to start with positioning the client, positioning this statement with the client. And what that is saying, hey, Mr. Client, Mrs. Client, what I like to do is I like to share with you what we do. If it resonates with you, if it makes sense, great, we'll move forward. If it doesn't make sense, then we'll just go ahead and part as friends. That is so important because you want to give clients a back door. They never want to feel pressure. They never want to feel like, oh man, what is this guy trying to sell me? And when you're able to show a client a back door, I'm telling you, it reduces anxiety and it reduces stress, and they feel it. And so at that point, whenever anxiety and stress go down, the walls of objection go down. And also they're able to relax and receive the information that you are presenting and hopefully make a determination if it helps them. So you always want to make sure you give them a back door before you start any presentation. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. As I said, when we look at planning for our clients, there's really three types of planning that we do. The first one is personal planning. And this is where we work with the person's individual plan. The second is business planning, and the third is estate. Now, Mr. Client, is your estate near the $5 million mark today? Okay. This is, if it's not, that's okay, because we can work towards it. This is what the whole purpose of this plan is to create that wealth for you over time. Mr. Client, do you have a business? Okay, you do. I have a quick question. When you began your business, was the intent for your business to become wealthy, or was the intent for your business to create personal wealth for you? Well, if it's the latter, that's where I like to focus on. I like to focus on personal planning, because when it's all said and done, as we retire, many times we retire in our personal assets. That's why it's important to start here. So when we look at personal planning, what I like to do is I like to define that so we can make sure we're on the same sheet of music. And there's five elements. There's five things that we focus on as we're going through that planning process. The first one is cash flow. Cash flow is the foundation to any financial plan. It's the heartbeat. As cash flow grows, you're able to build assets, create a lifestyle. If there's a reduction of cash flow, then times get tough. So it's really important to focus on cash flow. There's three things that can interrupt cash flow: job loss, a disability, and a death. So we'll look at how those three factors impact this plan. As we're building a healthy cash flow, what we want to do is create discipline so we can set aside money over time to build assets. And this is what really determines your net worth. Also, as you build your assets, it is your assets that will produce cash flow for you as you retire. And how do people really build assets? Well, you know what? They really get focused on goals. They really want to understand where they are today, where do they want to be in the future. And the question we ask ourselves is, can we really help you bridge that gap? And working with hundreds and hundreds of clients over our career, over my career, what I found is that most goals are really simple. The vast majority of people want one thing. They want financial security. They want to make sure that when they lay their heads down at night, the world is okay around them. They want financial peace. And so our goal is to provide financial security for you as we work through this process. And if we do this properly, we're going to build a legacy. We're going to build a legacy for you that you're going to be able to pass down to your future generations, not only impacting your family, but impacting charities and so many great causes that you believe in. So these are the 5 things that we focus on when we look at personal planning. So how do we begin to do this? Well, the first step is we want to maximize our savings. We've got to begin to save. And this is where many clients stop us and say, wait a second. Hey, listen, I wish I could save more, but I just can't. There's just not enough money to go around. And the reality is I understand that. See, I understand that your dollars have a lot of stress on it. Your dollars are competing with groceries, mortgage, tuition, lifestyle. And there's really not much to save. And so things can get tight. But this is what we found. We found that many people have like a financial bucket. We call it a financial bucket. Okay, and money flows into our bucket from over time, but this is what happens. People have holes in their bucket. And because they have holes in their bucket, money just pours out unknowingly, unnecessarily, and they're losing money. They don't even know where they're losing it at. To kind of give you an example of what kind of impact this might have, let's assume that you're losing $5,000 a year through your holes in your bucket. Well, if we took $5,000 and we added a 5% interest rate to it, compounded it over time for, let's say, 25 years, those holes costed over $250,000 over your lifetime. That's a lot of money. $250,000 can really impact a difference in retirement. But so what if we're able to reduce those holes, eliminate some of them altogether, and take the money you were losing and bring it into a saving strategy where we're able to maximize our savings? And that's really what our hope is that we take a look at where your cash flow is going, identify any holes, and see if we can redirect those dollars. And as we do so, our clients want the second objective. And what they're saying, JP, can you help me maximize my returns? And really when we maximize our returns is when we get the most out of every single dollar. And what's happened is people have attempted to maximize their returns because they haven't saved enough. And they're hoping to max out returns, earning higher interest rates in their mutual funds, their 401k, to make up for lost savings. But when you do that, you turn on the speed, and with speed comes risk. And oftentimes it can lead a devastating impact. See, the reality is my clients felt the hurt in 2002, but they really felt the pain in 2008. And they're saying, JP, I want to maximize savings. I want to maximize my returns. But I don't want to go through what I went through again in 2008. I want to minimize my risk. And so the reality, when we look at risk within a plan, there's really a lot of different risks that can impact it. The first one most people recognize is market risk. This is the market volatility. And this is where the ups and downs of the market really take an impact in our portfolio. But there's other risk out there. And some of those risks include inflation, the value of your dollar, the devaluing of your dollar over time. How about lawsuits? Lawsuits can truly impact a financial plan. Accidents, emergencies, disability, death. These are all different risks that exist out there, but there's one that has a huge impact over time, and if we're not careful, it can be the number one destroyer of wealth, and that's minimizing taxes. Taxes can have a major impact on a financial plan. Let me give you an example of how this might work. Let's assume you're making $100,000, and the reason I'm seeing $100,000 is because it's nice, easy math. Based on $100,000, what may be your tax bracket? Most people say 25%, so you're left with 75. But did that include Medicare, Medicaid, and your FICA taxes? And the reality is, no, it didn't. So now we got to take around 7% off that, and we're left with 68. Now, in New Mexico, we have a state income tax. So let's assume 4,000 goes to state income taxes. So now we're left with 64. But if you live in a nice home, you're probably going to pay anywhere from $3,000 to $5,000 of property tax. So now we're down to 60. And every purchase that we make here in Bernalillo County, Sandoval County has sales tax. So let's assume there's another $2,000 that goes to sales taxes a year. And so when people look at their tax bracket, they may think they're in a 20% tax bracket, but they can be anywhere from a 30 to 50% tax bracket depending on their situation. Now, I want to make something very clear right now. I can't reduce your taxes today. That's not my job. I don't do that for my clients, and I don't want to mislead you, okay? And so, but how does this impact? We begin to study how we can impact taxes over time and show you how to position your assets to minimize those taxes, okay? So now, we look at these different risks: market risk, inflation, lawsuit, accidents, emergencies, disability, death, taxes, okay? We're going to call these guys the bad guys. We're going to call these elements the bad guys. And what are the bad guys trying to destroy? You know what? The bad guys are trying to destroy your cash flow, your assets, your goal, your financial security, and they're trying to destroy your legacy. These eroding factors, these bad guys are trying to destroy everything that's near and dear to your heart, the things that you hold, special to you. So as we begin to look at the planning process, the very first step is we want to build a wall of protection. We want to keep the bad guys out. And our protection strategy must do two things. Number one, it must protect the things that matter most: cash flow, assets, goals, security, and legacy. But it also needs to replace what they took if they were able to penetrate the wall. So the very first step is protection. And as we look at these eroding factors, market risk, inflation, the reality is we can recover from some of these. You can recover from market risk. You can build hedges against inflation. You can title your assets to limit the effect of a lawsuit. You can establish emergency funds for accidents, disability, emergencies. But there's one that's really powerful, and that's death. And the reason why that's powerful, because there's no recovery. It's final. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to focus on how death can impact your financial plan and make sure we're protected against that, and we'll work through the rest. Once we establish our protection strategy that's actually made up of 12 different components, then we focus on the accumulation strategies. This is where we begin to grow our assets over time. And we will invest in stocks, bonds. We'll look at business interests. Clients use real estate, rental properties, things of that nature to really grow their assets. And they want to build as much wealth as possible. Why? Because they know that one day they're going to retire. And they want to make sure they take their assets and they distribute to them. They have a distribution strategy that will really last throughout their entire life. And so those are the three steps: protection, accumulation, and distribution. So based on what you saw today, does it make sense to learn more? And if it does, what I like to do is show you what the next step is. And I show you the next step by using an analogy. And the analogy is, do you currently have a junk drawer in your home? Perhaps it's in your kitchen or you're in your bedroom. And in your junk drawer at home, you can have anything from paper clips to scissors to keys to pencils and pens. Miscellaneous things that are not useful unless you really, really need them. So, like a screwdriver. When you need a screwdriver, you just need a screwdriver. And I got two in my personal junk drawer. And most people have this junk drawer, but they also have what we call a financial junk drawer. A financial junk drawer, people have real estate, 401ks, cash accounts, insurance, auto insurance. And things are stuffed into this financial junk drawer. And because they have this junk drawer, they really don't know what they have. They don't know how it works, and they don't know how it benefits them. So really what the first step is for us to really determine what you currently have and put a name to everything. We're going to show you exactly what you have. I'm going to show you how it works, and then we're going to figure out if it's benefiting you or not. So that's the next phase. And so we would like to do that. We do that by gathering some information. So I have a list of information we would need to gather from you. And if you put these things together, we can begin working on your plan. Okay, guys, that's basically how the script works. There's a lot of different variations of that. I'm gonna say variation, but you can use your own language to tie it into it. But each circle has a purpose, and if you use each circle for your advantage, it creates a powerful story for your client. I wouldn't really eliminate anything simply because there's a lot of psychology that's baked into it. So what I'm going to encourage you to do, digest the script, learn it, understand all the moving pieces of it, and I know it's going to make a big difference in your practice. So I just want to continue to wish you happy selling. I hope you are reaching your dreams and your goals, and let's just make this thing happen. I appreciate each and every one of you guys.